back to my second episode of WICSO, or rather of my WICSO series, part 2. Now, in the last video, which was more of a filler video, I explained the lore behind, well, what was supposed to be episode 1 of my series. And today, I have some sad news. During my recording of episode 2 in WICSO, it randomly cut off within 15 minutes. Yeah, if you don't know, I screen record my videos all the time, but basically it cut off within 15 minutes. So whatever remained of the 20-minute, the other 20-minute half of the video that was very important, it could not go through. Now, I would try and show you all the progression of the war that took place, of the Anatolian War that took place between the pink country, the purple country, and the orange country, as well as the foundation of Libya and Italy. But I kind of saved the map, and now it's too late. As you can see, I can no longer undo. So once again, I am very, very, very sorry, guys, that I could not show you the recording of the progression of the war. So all I will give you all is an explanation. So basically, the Orange Country had a bunch of disputes with Armenia over they basically had a bunch of disputes on their border, which used to be right around here. So right around here. In addition, the Orange Country also wanted to start a war in order to gain more population, because this area is much more populated than their sparsely populated lands right over here. So they declared war on Armenia and started pushing forwards. From there, it was a constant back and forth, with this country showing remarkable strength and remarkable resiliency. However, though, during their war against Armenia, these two countries decided to declare war because they were imperialist. Imperialist. At one point, the purple team and the Caucasian country were very close to actually meeting up, managing to surround the orange team troops right around this area. However, though, this is where the orange team's resiliency was shown, as they actually managed to push the purple team back, and also managed to push Caucasia, if I can align the map carefully, but they also managed to push Armenia back. Elsewhere, the purple team, being a prestigious country, decided to go all out and invaded up the orange country, using a lot of conscription to do so. From there, they basically managed to surround the capital. However, though, just as the purple country reached the capital, their little supply line that they had, they basically lost connection with the capital, with their soldiers in the orange team's capital, and they were all wiped out brutally. This caused a lot of discontent with the neighboring areas of basically with the border areas that this country had with this country, and they all joined in one massive revolt, pushing this country to peace. Elsewhere, the pink country decided to push forwards, attempting to reach the capital as well. That was until the orange team pushed them back and almost pushed them and they basically managed to do a front line that looks something like this. However, though, the pink team decided to do something horrible, using conscription in order to blockade in order to stabilize the front line and to prevent this country from reaching their capital and their core lands. They eventually managed to push up the coast, and basically after one more year of fighting, all of them decided to sign a peace treaty. Elsewhere in Armenia, they also did the same, and basically this is how far Armenia and the Orange Country got to each other's lands. So in order to create a bit of a compromise, they decided to instead divide the land between them. Instead of claiming So instead of like disputing over this large piece of land, they decided to divide the land equally between them. So you could say that the Orange team won the war because they gained a lot of additional land, and as well as that, they also managed to show the resiliency and strength. Now, in response, this purple team decided to enter a rebuilding stage. However, though, they eventually decided to start conquering Moria because they're greedy imperialists. However, though, this is where the backstory of Pink Italy comes into play. Basically, a bunch of people around the purple team, discontent and of the upon realizing of the news of what happened to the troops that surrounded the Orange team's capital, decided that they were done with all of the war here, and eventually stole a bunch of and stole around. Actually, no, they stole one pirate ship and started moving around from the Aegean and up into the Mediterranean. They avoided Greece because by this point the purple team has basically mapped out all of that, including Moria, where they eventually reached Italy. The reason why they did not stop over in Albania was because they thought that the recently acquired Greek lands were all part of some larger landmass or peninsula where they would just be conquered in the end. So they decided to go far and far. They eventually managed to land in this peninsula of Italy where they set up their own country. Now, as for the backstory of the Libyan country, it's actually a little bit more intense. The pink country, having used conscription, also had a lot of discontent people. And as a result, these discontent people stole at least 3 or 2 ships and eventually made their way down the Aegean Sea, wiped them off course the map, and led them to landing in Libya. Now, was this country not chill about their own citizens stealing their own boats? Yes, they actually tried to chase down the people, but they eventually crossed into the territorial waters of the Purple Country, who basically told them to stop, or it would be war, or rather, it would be an act of war. Now, even though these two countries revolted from this country, they're not necessarily allies. They didn't even cooperate in the war. The main reason why is because the leaders of these two countries are very greedy. They don't really care about anyone else but themselves. So, rather, they're actually selfish. Selfish. And that basically explains the story of Italy and Libya. Now, how about here in Egypt? Well, as mentioned, Egypt was supposed to expand in episode 1, and in episode 2 they expanded, managing to reach around the modern day border between Egypt and Libya. Now, Egypt actually no, that is actually parts of Libya because I think the border of Egypt is like right around there. Yeah. But they basically managed to expand up the, I guess, Libyan coast, where they eventually stopped. During this time, the Mesopotamian country did a little bit of expansion. They decided to conquer a bit more of the desert. Back then, their lands looked kind of like that. But they eventually did some further expansion, considering that it's free real estate, and also decided to do some expansion around Iran and around the coast of Turkmenistan. Now you may notice some jerky borders over here, and that was yes because of a border treaty, the very first border treaty, in fact, of the series. Basically, around like episode no around basically in episode 2, Persia decided to expand a little bit north, whilst also expanding a little bit further into India. However, though, despite the fact that they have been expanding around India, they do have interest to go around this area. So, in order to stop the animosity between the two, they decided to sign a bit of a border treaty, which gave Mesopotamia this land, and would give the green team all of the land, or what would be most of the land behind it. And now that I mention it, let's go ahead and color those lands for the green team, shall we? So, hang on, wait. So, hang on, wait. So, as hang on, wait. And So hang on, wait. So basically, Mesopotamia gets all this land, and the green team gets all of this land. So now we have our first border treaty set up. We're actually gonna thicken their land a bit more, and there you go. As you can see, Persia is looking very giant. Giant. Will they have a revolution though? No, they will not have that yet. Elsewhere in Qatar, they decided to expand into the desert. Now, if you don't know why they decided to do this, well, the answer is simple. Whilst there's not a lot of security in the Strait of Hormuz, the problem is they're a little bit far from being able to they're a little bit too far from being able to reach into India and stuff like that. So what's Qatar's plan? Well, let's just say Qatar's plan is very, very, very bold. They plan to basically reach all the way down into the coast of Western Arabia in the hope of touching at least a coastline and to basically start building their empire from there. And there. Now, they eventually started expanding, and all they reached as of episode 2 is desert. Yeah, it's literally just desert. But are they going to stop expanding in the next episode? No, they're not going to stop expanding in the next episode. However, though, who will be probably expanding in the next episode is Oman. Now, Oman, wanting to increase its power, decided to do a bit of expanding. Back then, they only looked around like this. Yeah, this is an imaginary line. Back then, their land used to be like that. But over the years, they eventually started expanding and claiming a bit more of the interior of Arabia and the interior of modern-day Yemen, actually. From there, they started expanding into inland Oman, and even made it to around the deserty areas of Yemen. From there, they eventually started an expedition south. Here's what was over here. They eventually discovered this island, which they used as a refueling station to come over here and colonize Socotra. From there, they eventually discovered the Horn of Africa, and where they are currently in the process of colonizing it. And we could actually see Oman rising to become a pretty strong player. But who knows? That will be all in the future episodes. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this purple country decided to do some expansion on Greece and Bulgaria, eventually making it into southern Dobruja where Romania is, and elsewhere in the Caucasus. This Armenia decided to do something very bold. They eventually made it their goal to conquer the Caucasus Mountains in order to claim free land, and to maybe conquer more land in the case that they're ever kicked out. And how will they do that, you ask? Well, they basically their plan was basically to go around the coast and to basically conquer the Caucasian Mountains from above to eventually start squeezing the Caucasian Mountains into their territory like eating a sandwich, pretty much. So basically they started from around here and basically decided that, and are currently in the ongoing process of connecting these two pieces of land together in order to create one single front line to conquer the Caucasus, which is right around here. They might have already crossed it, but let's just say it's right over here. And that's basically going to do it for this filler episode. Once again, I am sincerely sorry if this is once again another filler episode, but as mentioned, the half of my recording for episode 2 kind of got cut off. So, yeah. And also, I currently feel a little bit procrastinated right now. I mean, I would want to do a little bit more lore, but I may actually do that later on in the day. It's currently 11:21 a.m. for me right now. So, with all that being said, thank you for tuning in to this episode 2 filler, to this kind of filler video. I will mark it as episode 2, however, because I did technically do some expansion, plus I did expand the borders of these countries and created new ones. So with all that being said, thank you for watching the second episode of my WICSO series. With all that being said, stay safe and stay tuned for the next video. See you guys!